The message sat there unanswered for 30 days. 30 fucking days. At first, I thought she was just busy with her conference in Chicago. A quick, good morning, text ignored. Then another. Then another. Days turned into weeks, and my texts went from concerned to confused to cold. All while the little read notification mocked me from my screen. We'd been married for 3 years. 3 years of what I thought was trust and respect. Sure, we had our issues, but who doesn't? I never imagined she'd simply disappear like this. I called her countless times only to be sent straight to voicemail. Her social media remained active though. That's what really started raising red flags. She was posting photos of the conference, business dinners, and networking events. Somehow she had time to share her professional achievements with hundreds of online strangers, but couldn't spare 30 seconds to reply to her husband. I reached out to her colleague who was supposedly at the same conference. Her response was immediate but strange. Oh, I thought she extended her stay to visit family. Family? She told me nothing about visiting family. Her parents lived in Florida, not anywhere near Chicago. The corporate credit card statements arrived in my email that evening. I wasn't looking for them, but there they were. Restaurant charges from places I'd never heard of. Hotel charges that didn't match the conference accommodation she'd mentioned. A resort charge that seemed far too luxurious for a business trip. Each piece of evidence felt like another crack spreading across the foundation of our marriage. I sat in our living room, surrounded by framed wedding photos that suddenly felt like props from someone else's life. When her boss called looking for her updated presentation for the board meeting tomorrow, confusion turned to certainty. What do you mean? She's been at the Chicago conference for your company, I said. The silence on the other end lasted too long. There is no Chicago conference, he finally replied. She took personal leave, said it was a family emergency. My blood ran cold. She hadn't just left me on red. She was living a completely different reality from the one she told me about. I poured myself a whiskey and opened my laptop, not to send another pathetic, unanswered message, but to start building a case. She didn't know it yet, but while she was ignoring my texts, I would be meticulously documenting her lies. If she wanted to play this game, I would make damn sure I was steps ahead when the truth finally came out. I called a private investigator that evening. I wasn't going to waste another day wondering and waiting. I deserved answers, and if she wouldn't give them to me, I'd find them myself. That night, I removed her photo from my nightstand. The woman in that picture, the one with honest eyes and a genuine smile, that woman no longer existed. Or perhaps she never did. Either way, I was done being the fool who kept sending messages into the void. The investigator called me 2 days later with an update. I have preliminary information, he said, voice steady and professional. Are you somewhere private where we can talk? I stepped into my home office and closed the door. Go ahead. Your wife is staying at the Grand Lake Resort. It's a 5-star property about 2 hours outside Chicago. He paused. She's not alone. Even though I'd suspected it, hearing the confirmation felt like being punched in the stomach. I kept my voice level. I need details. Everything you have. She checked in 12 days ago with a man. Mid-30s, well-dressed, drives a black Audi. They're in the honeymoon suite. Another pause. I've documented their movements. They appear intimate. I gripped the edge of my desk. Send me everything. Photos, video, all of it. While waiting for the files, I logged into our shared account. All these years, we'd maintained transparency with finances. Ironic. I traced back 6 months of transactions, finding a pattern of unexplained expenses, lunches at places I'd never heard of, hotel charges in our own city, jewelry purchases on days that weren't my birthday or our anniversary. The file from the investigator arrived with dozens of photos. There she was, laughing over dinner with a man I'd never seen, walking hand in hand along a lakefront, kissing him in the hotel lobby without a hint of shame or discretion. The timestamp on one photo showed her texting someone while sitting on his lap, probably posting on social media while continuing to ignore my messages. I called her sister, maintaining a casual tone. Hey, just checking when your parents are expecting her in Florida? I want to coordinate sending a gift. Her confusion confirmed another lie. Florida? Our parents are on a cruise. She's not visiting them. I hung up and continued digging. With her email password, unchanged since we first started dating, I found hotel confirmations, flight bookings, even restaurant reservations for 2. Each discovery was methodical, each piece of evidence carefully saved and documented. The credit card statement showed a charge for an expensive lingerie store the day before she left. I'd never seen whatever she bought there. It wasn't meant for my eyes. I contacted our lawyer that afternoon and scheduled a consultation for the following day. Then I called my bank and opened a separate account, transferring half of our joint savings. Not out of spite, but self-preservation. That evening, she finally texted, "Landing tomorrow at 3. Can you pick me up at the airport?" Just like that. As if she hadn't disappeared for a month. As if she wasn't coming home from a romantic getaway with another man. I responded simply, "Sure." Let her think I was still the oblivious husband. Let her believe she'd gotten away with it. I'd play along, but only to ensure I had every advantage when the truth came out. I cleared my schedule for the next day, meeting with the lawyer who laid out my options. "With this evidence," he said, reviewing the photos, "you're in a strong position." I nodded, face expressionless. I don't want a long, messy divorce. I want it over quickly on my terms. I left his office with a preliminary divorce agreement drafted and a clear strategy. As I drove toward the airport, I felt strangely calm. The pain was there, but buried beneath something stronger, resolve. I spotted her immediately at the airport. Designer sunglasses, perfectly styled hair, pulling a suitcase that cost more than most people's monthly rent. She smiled when she saw me, as if nothing had changed. "There you are. I've missed you," she said, leaning in for a kiss. I gave her a brief hug instead, taking her suitcase. "Let's get home. Traffic's bad." In the car, she launched into elaborate stories about her conference, detailed lies about keynote speakers, networking events, and industry breakthroughs. I nodded at appropriate intervals, occasionally asking questions just to see how deep her deception went. "The Chicago skyline was beautiful from the hotel," she said, scrolling through her phone. "We had this amazing view of the lake." "Sounds great," I replied, knowing full well she'd been looking at a forest lake, not Lake Michigan. "Did you get to try that restaurant you mentioned? The one with the famous chef?" "Oh yes. Incredible food. You would have loved it." Another lie. The restaurant she'd mentioned before leaving didn't even exist. At home, I carried her luggage inside while she made herself comfortable, kicking off her shoes as if returning from an honest business trip. "I brought you something," she said, pulling out an expensive watch from her bag. "A gilt gift, purchased with our joint account." "Thanks," I said, setting it aside without opening the box. "You must be tired from your trip." She showered while I prepared dinner, acting the part of the dutiful husband. Over wine and pasta, she continued fabricating her professional adventures in Chicago, never once addressing the month of ignored messages. "You've been quiet about your month," she finally said, reaching for my hand. "Everything okay here?" "Just busy with work," I replied, withdrawing my hand to refill my glass. Nothing exciting to report. That night, she initiated sex, eager, almost desperate. I declined, claiming exhaustion. The hurt look in her eyes almost made me laugh, as if I was the one causing pain in our relationship. The next morning, I left early for a meeting, actually another consultation with my lawyer. He reviewed the additional evidence I'd gathered and nodded approvingly. "The divorce papers are ready whenever you want to serve them," he said. "Given the circumstances and the prenup clause about infidelity, she won't have much ground to stand on." I spent the day finalizing my plan. I transferred important documents to a secure location, changed passwords on essential accounts, and confirmed details with the investigator for one last surveillance job. That evening, she suggested having friends over for dinner the following weekend. "It's been ages since we entertained. I was thinking we could invite your best friend and his wife, my sister and her husband, maybe a few others." "Great idea," I agreed, already seeing the perfect opportunity taking shape. "Let's make it Saturday. I'll help you plan the menu." For the next few days, I maintained a charade. We shopped for groceries together, cleaned the house, and acted like a normal couple preparing to host friends, all while the evidence of her betrayal sat securely in my office safe. Friday night, she received a text that made her excuse herself from the room. I didn't need to check who it was. I already knew. "Work emergency," she explained upon returning. "Might need to step away for calls tomorrow during the party." I nodded understandingly. "Do what you need to do." That night, I finalized every detail of my plan. The timing, the words, the evidence to present. While she slept beside me, I felt nothing but cold determination. She'd left me on read for a month while living a double life. Tomorrow, I would show her exactly what consequences looked like. Saturday arrived with perfect weather, sunny but cool, a fitting backdrop for what would soon unfold. I woke up early and went for a run, clearing my head and solidifying my resolve. When I returned, she was already in the kitchen, preparing appetizers for our dinner party. "You're up early," she remarked, chopping vegetables. "Everything okay?" "Never better," I replied, pouring myself coffee. "Just wanted A to be perfect." Throughout the day, her phone kept buzzing. Each time, she'd check it discreetly, sometimes responding with a quick text before returning to party preparations. Twice she took calls in our bedroom with the door closed. I didn't need to eavesdrop. I already knew who was on the other end. By 6 o'clock, everything was ready. The house looked immaculate, food was prepared, and wine was chilled. She'd changed into an expensive new dress I'd never seen before. "You look nice," I commented. "New outfit." "This? No. I've had it for ages," she lied effortlessly. The investigator had photographed her buying it just last week, with him by her side. Guests began arriving at 7. My best friend and his wife came first, followed by her sister and brother-in-law. 2 more couples completed our dinner party. All people who had been at our wedding, all people who believed in our marriage. Conversation flowed easily through appetizers and drinks. We played the perfect hostess, refilling glasses and engaging everyone with stories of her fictional business trip. I watched her perform, almost impressed by how convincingly she lied to our closest friends. "The conference was incredible," she told everyone. "I made so many valuable connections." Her phone buzzed again during the first course. She excused herself, claiming it was work. I nodded to my best friend, who followed her discreetly with his phone, just as we'd planned. During the main course, conversations turned to relationships. Her sister mentioned a friend going through a rough divorce. "It's so sad when people can't work through their problems," my wife said, shaking her head solemnly. "Communication is everything in a marriage." I nearly choked on my wine at the irony. "Speaking of communication," I said, setting down my glass carefully, "I've been meaning to share some news with everyone." She looked at me, confusion crossing her face. This wasn't part of our hosting script. "I've learned a lot about communication recently," I continued, voice steady, "especially about how actions speak louder than words. Or in some cases, how silence speaks volumes." The table grew quiet. Everyone sensed the shift in atmosphere. "Darling," she said, voice tinged with warning. "Maybe this isn't the right time for—" "It's the perfect time," I interrupted, standing up. "After all, these are our closest friends and family. Who better to share significant life developments with?" Her face drained of color as I walked to the credenza and retrieved an envelope. I returned to the table and remained standing. "I've prepared something for tonight," I said, addressing our guests. "A presentation of sorts. About trust, honesty, and consequences." Her hand knocked over a wine glass as she reached for me. "Stop this right now," she hissed. I looked directly into her eyes. "For an entire month, I tried to communicate with you. You read my messages and chose to ignore them. Now it's your turn to read something for me." With deliberate calm, I extracted the divorce papers from the envelope and placed them in front of her. "I think it's time we all heard about your actual trip," I said. "Not the fictional conference in Chicago, but the romantic getaway at Grand Lake Resort. I believe everyone deserves to know exactly who they're breaking bread with tonight." The silence that followed was deafening. Her face contorted from shock to anger to desperate calculation in seconds. "What are you talking about?" she stammered, forcing a laugh. "You're embarrassing yourself." I pulled out my phone and connected it to our smart TV. "Let's review the evidence, shall we?" The first photo appeared on screen, her checking into the resort with her lover. Then another, them dining at an upscale restaurant. Then more, walking on the beach, entering their suite, kissing by the pool. With each image, gasps filled the room. "These could be doctored," she said desperately, looking around the table for support. "They're not," my best friend interjected, pulling out his own phone. "And neither is this video I just took of you on the phone with him in the hallway, telling him how you can't wait to see him tomorrow while your husband prepares dinner for your friends." Her sister covered her mouth in shock. "How could you?" I pulled out another document. "Credit card statements showing purchases you made together. Hotel bookings in your name. Text message records I've obtained legally through our shared plan." She stood up abruptly, knocking her chair backward. "You had me followed? You invaded my privacy? What kind of sick, controlling Stop, I said firmly. The gaslighting ends now. You're not the victim here. I turned to our guests. I apologize for the dramatic evening. I didn't want to involve you all, but I needed witnesses. She's been rewriting reality for months, and I refuse to let her twist this into me being paranoid or jealous. Her brother-in-law, who had remained silent until now, spoke up. The resort you were at. That's where we had our anniversary 2 years ago. You recommended it to us. Another piece clicked into place. She had sent her own sister's husband to the same resort where she conducted her affair. I've filed for divorce, I continued calmly. The papers are drawn up. The evidence of infidelity nullifies the financial protections of our prenup. I'm not looking to ruin you, but I won't be taken for a fool either. She switched tactics immediately, tears streaming down her face. I made a mistake. A terrible mistake. But we can work through this. Counseling, therapy, whatever it takes. Our marriage is worth fighting for. Our marriage ended when you chose him. I replied, unmoved by her performance. It's been over for months. You just didn't bother to tell me. I turned to our guests again. I've arranged for rideshares home for everyone. This evening is clearly over. Thank you for being here, uncomfortable as it's been. My best friend stood first. We'll stay and help clean up. There's nothing to clean up, I said, never taking my eyes off her. Everything's already been sorted. As our guests made their awkward departures, she remained frozen, mascara streaking down her cheeks, the perfect picture of devastation. Only I knew it was for herself, not for what she'd done. When the last guest left, her mask dropped completely. You think you're so clever, she hissed. You could have handled this privately. Instead, you humiliated me in front of everyone we know. Exactly like you respected my privacy by ignoring my messages for a month while fucking another man. I kept my voice level. You don't get to dictate terms anymore. I'll fight this divorce. I'll take everything. I laughed genuinely for the first time in weeks. With what leverage? The evidence is overwhelming. Your lover is married too, by the way. His wife received the same documentation tonight. Quite the coincidence. Her face went pale again. This she hadn't anticipated. Your things have been packed. The guest room is prepared for you tonight. Tomorrow, you can go to your sister's or a hotel. I don't particularly care which. But this house is mine, purchased before our marriage. You can't just erase 3 years, she said, desperation creeping into her voice. You already did that, I replied, heading toward the stairs. You left me on read for a month. Now I'm leaving you on single for life. 6 months passed surprisingly quickly. The divorce was finalized in record time. Her lawyers advised settlement after seeing the evidence. I kept the house and most assets, while she received enough to start over. Fair, but certainly not generous. The first month after our dinner party revelation, she tried everything. Tearful apologies, seduction attempts, even having mutual friends plead her case. None of it worked. I maintained complete radio silence, communicating only through attorneys. When she finally realized I wouldn't budge, the threats began. She'd ruin my reputation, tell people I was abusive, destroy my professional relationships. My response was simple. Every threat you make will be met with further evidence being released. Choose wisely. She chose wisely. The divorce proceeded without further drama. I focused on rebuilding. Therapy helped process the betrayal. I renovated the house, erasing traces of our life together. I reconnected with friends I'd neglected during the marriage and advanced in my career with newfound determination. For months post-divorce, I received an invitation to my best friend's birthday celebration at an upscale restaurant. I arrived to find a carefully curated group, close friends who'd supported me through everything. The evening was exactly what I needed: good food, better company, and genuine laughter for the first time in ages. As we were finishing dessert, the atmosphere in the restaurant shifted. She walked in with her sister, clearly not expecting to see me there. Our eyes met briefly across the room. She looked smaller somehow, less confident. The designer clothes and perfect makeup couldn't hide the toll the divorce had taken. My friend noticed my distraction. Want to leave? Not at all, I replied, signaling the waiter. Another round for everyone. Later, as we were preparing to leave, she approached our table. Everyone tensed, ready to intervene. Can we talk? She asked quietly. Just for a minute. I considered her request, then nodded. 1 minute. We stepped aside, maintaining a respectable distance. You look good, she said, eyes searching my face for any sign of lingering attachment. Thank you. What did you want to talk about? She took a deep breath. I've been in therapy, working on myself, understanding why I did what I did. That's commendable, I replied neutrally. I miss you, she finally admitted. I made the biggest mistake of my life. The guy from the resort, it meant nothing. He left me when things got complicated. And this concerns me how. Her expression faltered. I thought maybe, with time, we could try again. Start slow, dating perhaps. I know I don't deserve it, but, you're right, I interrupted gently. You don't deserve it. People make mistakes, she pressed. We had 3 good years. I smiled without warmth. What we had was a marriage where one person was committed and the other wasn't. That's not a foundation worth rebuilding on. So there's no chance? Ever. Your minute's up, I said, glancing at my watch. But to answer your question, when you left me on read for a month, you taught me a valuable lesson about priorities and respect. It's a lesson I won't forget. As I turned to rejoin my friends, she grabbed my arm. Please, I still love you. I gently removed her hand. The problem is, I no longer love you. In fact, I'm grateful for what you did. Her expression registered confusion. Your betrayal freed me from a marriage with someone who never truly respected me. Now, I'm with someone who does. On cue, a beautiful woman approached from the bar where she'd been watching our interaction. I introduced them briefly before we walked away, hand in hand. As we left the restaurant, I didn't look back. There was no need. The woman who had ignored my messages for a month while betraying our vows was no longer relevant to my life. The future stretched ahead, honest, authentic, and built on mutual respect. She had left me on read for a month, thinking I'd always be there waiting. Instead, I'd left her with the consequences of her choices, single, alone, and permanently on unread in the story of my life.
Our story has come to an end. If you've made it this far, how about subscribing to our channel? It helps us immensely. I've selected 2 other videos for you that I'm sure you'll enjoy. Feel free to click on them. I'll be waiting for you in the next story. See you soon.